Good morning, everybody. I too am going to try to be respectful of your time. I have a bit of a slideshow that I'm going to go through, and hopefully you'll be able to grab some tidbits from that. And don't worry, what I'll do is I'll download in a PDF. I'll send it out so you don't have to write anything down. You can put your phone away for taking notes. I promise you, I'll try and pack as much value as I can in this as we possibly can. So let me share my screen, and if this all works. All right, you guys can see that presentation? Is that, I can't really, everything's good? All right, so when Val asked me to do this, I was really excited. I've been working on a lot of things for our team as we launch it here. And one of the things that I think I do pretty well is I help people kind of find what's inside of them that's gonna make them successful. And so a lot of times it's already there. People just need it to be coaxed out of them. But of course, a lot of that is about, learning to listen better than it is talk. And here we are in a mega scripts, and I'm going to talk about trying not to talk quite as much as what we like to, I think, traditionally do as realtors. So there's two things that we absolutely are all held back by. It doesn't matter who's on this call, whether you've done 30 deals, 3 deals, 300 deals, and it's fear, right? There's two pieces of fear that I think we're all held back by. It's inherent in nature. It's fear of rejection and fear of failure. And we all have it at different levels. And if we can kind of keep that at bay, we can accomplish anything. I mean, absolutely anything by doing just a couple other things. And yes, there's fear. There was fear for me. I've probably gone through this show. It was done. I did it over the last 2 days. I think I've done it just in about probably 6 times, just to make sure I can keep it within 25 minutes so that we can get to the last 5 minutes. And so what I'll tell you is that in order to accomplish anything, you have to do 2 things. And Gary Keller has written the absolute best book on this, The One Thing, and that you have to learn to prioritize things ruthlessly and what's super important. And then how do you control your attention, right? And in this world of dopamine hits and smartphones and scrolling to the bottom of our Instagram wall and Facebook, that is very hard to do. It's hard to control our attention. So in order to prioritize, you first have to understand why you do what you do and why and when to do it, right? And then to control your attention, that's finding that motivation that's going to keep you focused. This is not about that. That's not what this class is about, but I always think that I have to talk about those things. There are plenty of courses on that. There's great books. There's The One Thing. There's the 12-week year. I got a whole stack of books here. I can tell you there's Atomic Habits. I've probably read 100 books in the last 3 years. Pandemic gave us a lot of free time to do that. So I'd say I'm going to send this out. Put your phones away unless you're on your phones and taking notes. It's not as much about scripts as it is conversations. I'm not going to give you that wowsy-dowsy FSBO script. What I'm going to do is give you a series of about 10 different questions that if you can work into your repertoire, if you can work them into how you ask them, not just ask them, but how you ask them and when to ask them, you'll have a large amount of success. And then if you would do me a favor, because there's probably going to always be some questions as we go along, I have my chat up here as well. If you can put in the chat, we've all been doing Zoom for 2 years, and just tag me directly, communicate it to me directly. That way I don't have to look through the whole chat if it does wind up get going. Just put the questions in there and we'll try and touch on them. And then if we don't get through those, I'll then call you personally over the next day or 2 and answer that question directly, or maybe even send out an email to everybody that's on that call. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing for those 20 listings, there's 5 steps. And the first step is probably what I think is the most important one. That's you have to figure out who you're talking to when it comes to scripting. We talk about FSBO scripts, buyer scripts, seller scripts, but you have to understand that there is a way to talk to each one of these groups. And it's not specifically about what they have to do. We're really going to be talking about listings. It's what you have to do for them. And so step 1, figure out who you are talking to. Now, there are only 3 types of people in this world. You fall into these 3 groups for everybody else, and they fall into the same 3 groups for you. Once you know people, once they're in your world, the 3 best questions to always ask is, how's your family, how's your job, and how are you, right? We know that those are the standards, part of the Ford script, so we're not going to go through that, but you have to understand the 3 groups first. And the first group is those that care about you, okay? You know the people that care about you, or you think you do. It could be family, it could be friends, and it could be anybody in the community, right? There's thousands of questions that you could ask to figure out whether or not somebody falls into the who cares about you group. And what you have to come up with is the one that sounds natural the way you say it. And I think this is where a lot of people fall short when it comes to learning scripts, is they have a script partner and they be reading off the page and they read off the page and it never sounds natural. Script partners are great, but what you want to do is shift from reading it off the paper to making it sound conversational. This is a personal business. We're doing personal things with other people. And the more transparent you can be, the more transparent they'll be with you. And this is a group that it's easy to practice with, right? Because these are the people that care for you. In 2008, there was a study done about how many contacts in the average smartphone. There's 471. Okay, so there's 3 groups of people. If we divide 471 by 3, it's 157 people in each group. If you don't have 471 people in your phone, you're lucky. I have over 3,000. It drives me crazy. But when you do have it and you can understand how these people fall into group, when we get into the other steps, it'll make your job and make your success a lot easier to find. And if I had to ask you right now, who in your phone falls into this group of people that care about you? And the people that care about you are your sphere of influence. They're your advocates. They're the people that will absolutely send you business. Your referral-based business will grow tremendously if you have a large group of people that care about you. But ultimately, if they care about you, they have to know that you care about them, because we've all been in that situation where we've invested too much in a relationship. It hasn't gone the way that we wanted, and you feel real slighted, right? Because it's not equal, it's not balanced. That second group are those people that could care about you, right? This could be family, friends, community, strangers, right? Because if I have a need to sell a home, but I don't know that Muriel's a realtor and she's not in my world, but I know she's a really good realtor and she's got a great reputation, I possibly could care about her if I could get her into my world. And so it's very specific. This is the group that I have found the most success in finding referrals from. It's actually not that first group of people. My family, even though I know they care about me, they have a hard time saying that I'm in real estate, right? Other than my wife, she's been a great referral partner. But my sisters and my cousins, my cousin's selling her house again. I've told her I could help her 1,000 times. She sold 4 houses in the last 6 years. She has not called me once for them. Always just hires another realtor. So, but the people that could care about you and identifying these are really, really, really going to be a big part of how your business grows. And then this is the one that I think most people spend the most time on. And that's the do not or will not care about you. We buy internet leads. We love to talk to people in groups that we don't know. We see somebody that posts, I need a realtor, and we jump on that. And we don't know if it's worth investing our time, and we don't protect our time with this. And when we don't, we find that we feel really, really, really tough. Like inside, it's kind of, you get beaten up. And believe me, I've dealt with thousands of internet leads over the last decade and a half, and I know it can be tough. But you have to start to be topical with these people and talk more about what's going on now than just the standard scripts. And so the first question I'll tell you to figure out in step 1, and this is thank you to COVID, this has been working really well for me. On St. Patrick's Day, we got together with a family that we used to get together with every year before the pandemic. And so this was a question that I asked them. They have kids that were 3 years younger, two and a half years younger. They do a lot. I see them in the neighborhood. Their families going left and right. And so I said, hey, what have you guys been doing for fun? And we found out that they were possibly looking for a house in South Carolina in Hilton Head. And these are just things we hadn't talked about. We're not as well connected. And this simple question, if you can build this into your repertoire with everybody that you see this year that you didn't see last year or the year before, or even people from 5 years ago, and you can ask them about what they're doing for enjoyment, it does one of two things. It makes you invested in them, and it makes them excited to talk about things that they really like to do and that they've been doing that they enjoy. Because right now, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but the world is pretty sour in a lot of conversations. People want to talk about the president, people want to talk about Ukraine, and they're all important topics, but people have a very negative spin. And if you can keep it in this vein of happiness, it's absolutely the best way to go. So what you want to do is focus on trying to bring people up and being invested with them. And so this one just literally worked for me last week. I told them I'm going to reach out and look for some people in South Carolina. I said, where else would you possibly be looking? They said Myrtle Beach. They said Hilton Head. And so now I'm on a quest to try to find them the best realtor in the state, in Carolinas, which I don't know, for a possible referral. And to be honest with you, even if I don't get a referral, I'm still going to put my effort into that because they'll know I'm invested in them. And when they sell their $750,000, $800,000 house, hopefully in the next 5, 6, 7 years, I'll be their realtor of choice. When their sister decides to sell hers in Chester Spring, I'll be their realtor of choice, so on and so forth. So you have to invest, right? And then this is one that I've gotten. So I do want to share real quick this book. Oh, you can't see it. Sorry. It's a great book. Matt Teeter is the first one that had ever recommended it to me. I was talking to him in a conversation. It's by Philip M. Jones. It's 130 pages. It's a very quick read. It's called Exactly What to Say. And it is a great book on the questions that you should ask and how you should ask them. This next question is the one that I probably used to fail on the most, but now I've decided when I change how I ask questions, this question seems pretty basic, right? This is a very basic script. What questions do you have for me? But most people don't ask it this way. They say, Val, do you have any questions? George, do you have any questions? And when you get into the psychology and the brain science of that, that's a tough question, because if I ask right now, okay, everybody with a show of hands, who has a question? Most people will keep their hand down, even if they have a question, because it's that fear of failure and fear of rejection. If I ask the first question and I sound dumb, everybody's going to look at me like I'm an idiot. If I ask a question that's already been asked, I'm going to look like, that's just how we are. So when you change the words and you just this little nuance of what questions do you have for me, it's a direct question. It says, I know you have questions. It's safe to ask them, and I'm expecting them. And when you do it that way, people always have questions. I just was getting a listing appointment done 3 days ago for a house I was putting up. I was with two older people, 4 hours, literally 4 hours with them. And I said at the end, about 3 hours in, I said, so what questions do you guys have for me? And they had a whole litany of questions that I hadn't touched on. And it was another hour of answering what was most important to me, to them. It's the psychology behind this. It's the different way of asking a question that's going to make a huge difference in how you close, because you get to the what's most important to them. These folks weren't worried about price. These folks weren't worried about, pretty much what they were worried about is how dirty was their house going to be. Very, 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 very fastidious. And they were like, what's going to happen to our house when all these people come through? And I was like, well, we're going to put some booties and stuff out there, but you should expect that when you do get back from the Poconos, you are going to have to clean it. So never forget, it's the rejection of failure, and it's why people don't ask questions. I've taught a lot of classes over my lifetime, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. And I could tell you, I'm in a room with 60 people and I say, hey, who has any questions? I used to ask it like that. Nobody would ask questions, and it would literally end. And I couldn't get back to my office without people coming up individually to ask me things. They're afraid to ask in front of a group. And I'm always like, you should ask me that in front of everybody else. That's a great question, right? Listen more, talk less. That was the title of this. All right, so on to step 2. This is all really, everybody knows about it, build a database, but what I've been talking and screaming at the top of my lungs since I took over as the team leader in Horsham is, I don't like buyers. I know everybody here loves buyers. I know we love the experienced buyers. When they get their home, we love buyers. I get it. I love people. I don't love buyers. I love helping people. But if I can focus on sellers, I also get buyers in that process, and I find that a lot more fulfilling than the first-time home buyer. I really do. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I don't like when mom and dad have to come approve of things. I don't like watching young people struggle and have student loans. Like, there's a lot of pain associated with first-time buyers in this world. It's just how I am personally. You don't have to be like me. But it's building a database of sellers who know you. And if I know them and where they live, they know their neighbors. And if I'm really good and they're in that first group and they care about me, I'm going to have access to their neighbors without even knowing it. And a good example is Margie and Bruce Fleming, who I just was finishing that paperwork. So I listed their house. Their house went up yesterday. I sold their neighbor's house 2 streets over on Perry Road back in the fall before I ever sold Margie and Bruce's house. So I sold the Fadra's house. I'm now selling the Fleming's house, and the Flemings are purchasing new construction. So that one relationship that I focused on very heavily is about $1.3 million in volume. Right. And so you tell me that it's better to work on buyers. And I'm not going to tell you that buyers aren't where you have to start. Buyers aren't important. But I'm just telling you that they're buying. Those people bought as well. And those people sold. But it's focusing on the right thing. And it's understanding what's urgent versus what's important. Right. And that's a really hard thing for a lot of people to do when they're building a database of sellers. So how do we do that? I'll give you a quick example. Here's a library. Let's call it a medical library. And let's say that George is, or no, let me pick somebody else. Let me say Pat Crane's out weed whacking this weekend, and she cuts her leg with the weed whacker. And I mean, she hits herself, nicks an artery, and blood is going everywhere. It's horrible for Pat. Well, there's 2 things. She has to stop the bleeding, right? So that's urgent. But it's important that she does it in the right way so that she doesn't get an infection, she doesn't have any long-term problems. And those answers would be in different areas of this library. They just would. That's how it works. Stitches would be one area, surgery, you name it, right? But we just want Pat not to have to lose her foot. So you have to know urgent versus important. It's urgent right now for everybody on this call to build a database of sellers that know who they are. And I can give you a specific number around it. I'm going to show you that if you just focus on this now, I promise you'll get plenty of buyers and you'll get plenty of sellers, but you have to do it in a way that you are laser focused, and you need to do it. Again, we're here to talk about scripts and what questions to ask. All right. So just keep in mind, it's urgent versus important. You wouldn't just walk around this library looking for a book. You'd have to go to a specific section and do the work you need to. And that specific section in our world right now is listings and sellers. It always has been. It always will be. We always talk about Gary Keller and Lee's listings and leverage. Well, guess what? Even before he and Jay Papasan and Dave Jenks wrote that book, it was all about listings. And it's always been about listings, and it should be. And I'm not saying for those buyers agents on this call, and if you're on a team that you aren't going to focus on buyers, but make sure you focus on the right buyers that hopefully have homes to sell. So they need to know who you are, right? And I would tell you, build a database of 200 homeowners that you know in as small of an area as possible. This is something I should have been doing over the years. I've coached a few hundred kids in sports locally. I've been involved in my kids' schools. I've sold houses, and I never really focused on this until now. When I look at my database, I've got people as far away as like Bensalem, Johnstown, Pennsylvania. I sold a house in one time, all the way up to the edge of Poconos. It's way too spread out, and now the gas is $5 a gallon. I got to trim this thing back down. It's the most powerful and important thing you can do right now, and the smaller you can go, the better you'll be. So start out on your block. If you don't know everybody that lives on your block, even though you don't like the car the one guy drives, just go meet him. I infuriated all my neighbors in the middle of the pandemic, so it's not a problem. Then go to your neighborhood, then go to your town, then go to your zip code, school district, county. And for anybody out there that says, Will, there's not enough listings, we can't do that. I ran the data. I called Pennsylvania Association of Realtors. Did you know that 18% of the homes were listed in the state of Pennsylvania last year? We have something like 719,000 listings that were listed, not in new construction. I mean, that's incredible to me. And most of us want to run around and say there's not enough listings. We sold more houses last year in the United States of America than we did the year before, and we'll continue to do that. If you do the math and you get 200 homeowners, and it's just, I'll use the people that I just talked about, the Flemings, and 2.5% of them move next year, just 2.5%. I literally would make $333,000. $333,000 would be my gross commission income. But yet I don't want to focus on that. I want to tell myself, I want to buy Zillow. I want to buy Realtor.com. I want to run Facebook ads. I'm going to jump on every neighborhood group because I'm the only realtor that's in the Harleysville, Souderton, garage sale or the North Bend garage sale thing. Focus on the people, find the ones that you care. So how do we do that? It's number one thing moving forward. Even more important, I think, than cell phone numbers and email addresses is people's physical address. And you're not going to be able to do that sitting on the couch watching Netflix, looking for the bottom of the wall on your Instagram. And I truly mean that. Everybody wastes a lot of time. We're in a world of dopamine hits, and that's what people really try to do, is feel good. You want to feel good, go out and help people sell their homes. You'll feel like $1 million. Absolutely. All right, so this is one that I've been using. Again, this is really a zero rejection one. It's been around for a long time, but most people don't do it. And it's anybody you talk to. If you start this out, and again, this is from this exactly what to say. I'm not sure, Val, if this is for you or not, but every month I send my clients this newsletter, and I usually have a local coupon to one of the businesses because I'm really invested in the community, and it's got information specifically about Talamenton Township and all that's going on in real estate around you. Would you like to be added to the list? It's impossible for her to say no. And if she says no, she's a heathen. And if she's a heathen, I don't want her in my database, and I don't want to work with her anymore, right? So you have to ask it in a way that opens up their mind so that you're going to be providing with value. She may not read it. She may throw it in the trash. She may delete it. It doesn't mean, but I need to know who she is. And then I do my 32, 36 touch. I stay in front of her. And so that all comes around to getting the address. I didn't tell her I mail it. I didn't tell her I email it. And so if she says to me, oh man, I just throw everything I get in the mail in the trash. That's great, Val. You know what? What's your home address? I need that for the database, but I'm going to send it to your email anyway. She says, oh, I don't have email. I said, that's okay. That's no problem. I'm going to mail it to your house. Right? We're literally talking about tens of thousands of dollars of commission, and we make excuses as to why it won't work. This is saying, you can also say, with your permission, I'd like to add you to my monthly newsletter. And if you're not sending out a single piece of value on a monthly basis to a portion, if not all of your database, you're in the wrong business, because you're in the business of providing information. And that's not information when they need it. It's information when they don't know that they need it, that you need to supply. Okay. Another one, again, that's worked really well for me because the pandemic, I'm getting out to see people now. I'm back in sales. Is that, what do you know about how the real estate market has changed since the beginning of the pandemic? Jim Natale and I were at lunch. Anybody knows Jim Natale? Actually, breakfast a couple of weeks ago. He's a good friend of mine, lender. And he was like, everybody knows about the real estate. We're going back and forth. And I said, not everybody does. And I said, so $20. I said, so a guy comes over, our waiter comes over. And I said, listen, we have a little bet going. I just want to know what do you know about the real estate market and this whole, all we're seeing? And he said, oh my God, my girlfriend and I lost $20. He's like, my girlfriend and I, geez, we've been trying to buy a house. We're using this realtor. We hate our realtor, and it's been horrible. She doesn't get us through houses. And so at first you're like, oh, light goes off. Hey, we can, here I go. I'm going to pick up a buyer. But then I find out that maybe he doesn't like the realtor because it's his girlfriend's cousin. And so there was a whole story to it. But it was by asking this question, right? And so this is a gift that COVID gave us. I know everybody thinks COVID is negative, but there's a lot of things that have allowed us to connect with people pretty intimately, right? And there's a few things that you need to connect on. So step one, remember, is know who you're talking to. Step two is build a database of 200 people. And these are just some questions. If you build them into your repertoire, scripts, we'll call them, you'll be able to uncover who these people are and build your database from there. And now this is the one that I lose everybody on. Step three is make one listing appointment a week. Now, a listing appointment does not have to be I'm bringing in a CMA. A listing appointment does not have to be that I'm going to go immediately and start talking to them about, oh, I put signs out and I've used a professional photographer and I got virtual tours and all that. It's not what it's about. A listing appointment is about getting to know people and what their needs are. How many people on this, just by quick show of hands, and not everybody's got the camera on, how many people use Command or use Command the way it's built? Use Command daily, use the app, do all your lead generation through it. You might all do it. Hey, I got some hands going up. But some people don't. And all the people from Horsham ad nauseum have heard me talk about this for 3 years. You pay for the tool, use the parts that you can, forget about the stuff that don't work, and just keep pushing yourself to go forward. Just absolutely keep pushing yourself to go forward. All right, so make one listing appointment a week, right? Don't decrease the goal. Don't say, I can get one this month. Absolutely, positively, get one a week. And what does that look like, right? That's increasing your effort. Have daily conversations, unique conversations. How do we do that? For a lot of people, it's going to be cold calls. It's going to be 10, 20, 50 cold calls. I don't know why. That's that third group of people that you're talking to that you don't know. You don't know that they're going to like you. They maybe won't like you ever. They may never work, but let's call them instead of calling the people in our world and in our phone. And so please, if there's anything you do, don't stop calling or meeting with people until you have that one appointment, right? There's 168 hours in my week, just like there is everybody else's on this call. I have no more time in a week than you do. You have no more time in a week than I do. But if you can focus for that solid 40 minutes a day. What? Will, you did say 40 minutes? Yeah, 40 minutes. I didn't say 3 hours a day. Yes, we say 3 hours a day because we know you're going to waste that. But if you can focus for 40 minutes and just have enough conversations to get an appointment every week. And if you get one for next week, oh, they couldn't meet me this week, so I got an appointment for Tuesday next week. Next call, oh, I got an appointment for Thursday next week. You have failed. You still don't have one for this week because they might cancel. So focus all week till you get one. And lead gen every day. You have one this week. How bad would it be to go on two? And most people, this is where I think they really struggle. You got to track your numbers. You got to know how many phone calls or how many conversations it's going to take. And you have to start this today. So here's a good one. I've listed 2 houses. I have one on Franconia Ave under contract in Telford. And I have another one coming up on Hermitage in Roxborough. Both of them are moving in with their parents. And what I said to them both, and I sold them their houses originally, and we were going to this next one. And I said, listen, this market is at the peak. You guys are going to probably be doing new construction or catching a deal when either things go down. And I said to them flat out, I said, Colby, what's it going to be like if I know your new construction is going to be finished in August or September and this market shifts? What's it going to be like for you knowing you could have sold this home for more money? And he's like, yeah, but what if the market keeps going up? I'm like, I can't guarantee you that. Interest rates are on the rise. So he listed, they got a great price. I thought I priced it at the top. It's never going to appraise. It's 10% over asking. And I thought I was beyond appraisal where I listed it. So the bottom line is they're extremely happy. Tim and Liz are doing the exact same thing. And they were supposed to be listing in 3 weeks from now. And they texted me last night and they said, we're getting nervous with interest rates. Can we do it next week? This is a very simple question. How will you feel when this market shifts, knowing that you could have sold your home for a lot more money? You should be saying that to everybody over the age of 65. Actually, probably everybody over the age of 45, because they lived through 2008. In 2008, I built my house and moved in it in 2007. I had a $650,000 house in Letter Rock Golf Club that was worth $420,000 if you go by this estimate just 14 months later. So keep that in mind. And then this is the other one that I don't think enough people have in their repertoire. And I think this is probably the single best question that you could have. It's the one that makes you the most money. And it's, when would be a good time for us to speak next? And every conversation that, or when would be a good time for us to get together? And if you can do that, just build these into your repertoire. you absolutely positively will come up with that one listing appointment a week. Because a good example would be is when would be the next time for you and I to get together? Or what will be a great time for me to stop by and take a look at your house? That's not a listing appointment. I just like to take a look at it. Why would you want to take a look at it? Because I'm a realtor. Because that's what I do for a living. I'd like to come see it because I like to see houses because I'm in the business of selling houses. Step 4, I'll keep it moving because we only got a few minutes left. Join at least one local group per quarter. Now, this is another one. People are like, oh, this doesn't work. BNI, the tip. Everybody has excuses. I joined the Harleysville BNI. I was asked to join it. The agent was there from the start, was there for 7 years. He sold one house out of BNI. I averaged $60,000 a year for the next 4 years out of BNI because I got in there and made it about them. He got in there and made it about him, right? It's connecting with like-minded people. Anybody that's another great book, Seth Godin, Tribes. A tribe is a group of people connected to one another, connected to a leader, and connected to an idea. A group needs just 2 things to be a tribe: shared interests and a way to communicate. Coach kids sports, get involved with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, your church, a gun club, a fishing club, a knitting club. I don't care. There will be people in it that think the way that you do. If you can find your tribe, it's going to make your job a whole lot easier. It's going to make it a whole lot more fun. It's going to give you emotional balance, which most people do not have. I know we all like to think we're emotionally balanced, but we're not. We're in real estate. It's just not, doesn't how it works. It grows your sphere instantly, right? And then all we're looking for in real estate, everybody on this call is looking for the microphone, right? And when you have the microphone, you get that from being involved, but you don't know how to get involved. And so if you ask every one of the people that care about you or could care about you, this one question: how do you get involved with big brothers and big sisters? They might not know. Val might not know that, but she might say, I don't know, but my cousin's been doing that in, Keokuk, Iowa, since I got out of college. And you could say, can you text them and just find out who the local person is? Again, getting involved in your community is what realtors should do. Life in real estate is about having the microphone and sharing your knowledge and information. If you're not comfortable with that, you're afraid you're going to fail, again, get rid of those 2 things. And then for the rest, it's, I was thinking about joining the Lions Club. Who do I need to speak with? Call the Lions Club. I was thinking about joining the Rotary. You can get involved. If you do 1 per quarter for a year, you get 1 deal out of them. That's 4 more houses you're going to sell this year than last year. And I think there's a lot more to it. And then another just quick one would be, would you ever be interested in getting involved with whatever it is? If Val and I are out to lunch and I say, Val, would you ever be willing to get involved with whatever it is, ASPCA, I know she would, she's very passionate about animals, but if she never thought about doing that, she now knows I care and she knows that I value her opinion and I would want to bring her in. So these are all questions to build into your repertoire when you are trying to generate leads. And it is absolutely 100% the best way to do it. And I'll wrap up real quick with step 5, because I know we just hit the 30-minute mark. Step 5, you need to take 4 homeowners. 4 homeowners. I didn't say 4 of your friends from college, 4 of your friends from the neighborhood, 4 of the people that you like to hang out with the most, but 4 homeowners. They could all be in those groups that we just talked about per week. And the number one thing everybody always tells me is, I can't afford that, Will. There's no way I can do that. But you eat lunch and they eat lunch. And you don't have to spend money on this. This could be eating lunch at people's houses. This could be grabbing a sandwich. This could be anything that you want to be. It could be just coffee, right? Saying that you can't afford this is completely wrong. You can afford this. It's a great investment of your time. You got 168 hours a week, like I said, that everybody has. Put your phone down, leave it in the car. I'm always missing calls from my wife, my children, and texts from people, because when I go in on an appointment or I go to lunch, I either put it on Do Not Disturb if I forget to bring it, and I literally do that in front of people because I want them to know, shit, I forgot to hold on, Do Not Disturb. Put it in my pocket, it does not come back out, right? Or I leave it in the car. Be considerate of them and they will be considerate of you. Consider every one of these meetings a pre-listing appointment. Again, you don't always have to go out. Swinging by somebody's house, bringing them. How many people work from home right now and can't get out? But how many of you have called and said, listen, you get a lunch break? I'll come by. I'll grab a sandwich. I'll pick up a Wawa hoagie. I'll come by and see you. People don't do that because they're afraid of being rejected. But if you did that 4 times a week, you'd hit all 200 homeowners that are in this database. And I guarantee you, if 200 people thought you cared about them that much and you did what you could to be a part of their life, they're going to send you gobs and gobs of business, right? Have them invite a friend. So if you're going out to lunch with them, say, hey, you've always talked about your friend Cindy, you love to meet her. Why don't you bring her with us, right? It's a good investment of time. If I spent $200 a week on this, right? 4 lunches, $50, $200 a week. Remember the amount of commission I said, if only 2.5% of the people move, $333,000, right? So I'm spending $10,000 hanging out with people at lunch, getting to know them, getting to know their friends for $10,000. Oh no, I'll give Zillow $1,800 a month. No, I'll be a part of the Zillow Flex plan, give them 32% of my commission, and run around and tell everybody I'm the best goddamn realtor in Montgomery County, right? Like that's what I could do. But I'm telling you, it's a horrible investment of your time. It's a horrible investment of your money. You'll look back on it years later and say, man, I should have done this thing different. Here's the best way to do it. Hey, I'd love to go get a cup of coffee, George. I'd love to go to lunch, George, in the next few weeks. So when can we catch up? Is Tuesday of next week good or Thursday? And George says he don't want to go to lunch with me. He's like, I'm busy both of those days. I'm like, okay, well, what about the following week? He says, no, I'm going on a cruise with my wife, St. Martin, because George goes on like a bazillion cruises. I'm like, all right, George, you know what? The week after that, I'm going to put you down for Thursday because I know when you first get back from the cruise, it's not going to work. But I'm wide open that third week. I'm going to put you down for Thursday. I'm going to touch base between now and then. Again, I'm going back, asking them when I have permission to call them again. Just make sure that's still going to work for you. And I look forward to hanging out and hearing all about your cruise to St. Martin and how you didn't get off the boat. No, I'm just kidding. He doesn't always, but I text him all the time. And then the other best way is to bring people with you. Val and I are going to lunch next Tuesday. Joanne, why don't you join us? It's that simple. This is a great investment of your time, a great investment of your money. And if you want to be in their world, you have to include them in your world. And if you don't want to include these people in your world, why should they let you into their world and give you literally a 5-figure check to be in their world, to be their real estate expert, right? So that's it. Step 1, understanding who you're talking to. Step 2, build a database of sellers, 200 in the smallest demographic possible. I challenge you all to do that and to do it by the end of this year. It will be extremely hard to do, but you can do it. Make at least one listing appointment a week. Join at least one local group. And what I mean by that is coach, as you know, it doesn't mean join it, but that's the best way to kind of broad base it. And then have lunch with 4 homeowners per week. All right, that's it. That's all I got. Questions and ahas. Are there any questions? Oh, George says I can buy him lunch any day. Oh, that's great. Let me stop sharing. Look at
I have
all
a
this.
question.
Now I can see everybody. Okay, what's your question?
Okay, so I have 6 kids, super social, always coaching, always doing all that stuff. I have the issue of just getting all those social moments and conversations. How do you get it to real estate without sounding like really creepy and salesy? Like I don't want to make it weird ever. I mean, and I know I can ask them personal questions and how's their job going and all that. I understand that. But then I have that like freezing moment of not wanting to then say anything to them about
That's a great question.
So normally, I'll just jump in here for 1 second, but then go ahead, Will. Normally, Lee, when you show an interest in them, like how's your job going? Has anything changed during the pandemic? It's like 95% natural that the next question is going to be, well, what's up with you?
Yeah.
And that follows that forward script. And, I hope that maybe allays some of your fears because it's going to come natural. If you show the interest in them and their career, the response is going to be the same. What's going on with you? And that would be your opportunity. Go ahead, Will. Sorry, I didn't mean to tag in.
I would have said it the exact same way. Here's what I always said. Why should they know what you do for a living if you don't know what they do for a living, right? And I'm going to send you a postcard. I'm going to do a Facebook ad. I'm going to blast the crap out of you that I'm a realtor. And you have no idea that person is a neonatal heart surgeon and saves babies for a living. You just know they're a doctor, right? Like you literally have to get into people's world and then allow them to get into your world. Transparency, 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 and find the people, the tribe that you feel most comfortable being transparent with. And when you do that, that's when things grow. Those people will refer you business. I have a hockey coach that I met 5 years ago that when I finished listing his house and selling it this summer, will have been worth over $11 million in transactions to me in 5 years. I still can't believe it. I hung out watching hockey games at Giuseppe's in Lansdale with this guy. And now he has a $3 million horse farm to sell. Crazy.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions? See, I said it wrong there. It should be, what questions do you have for me?
I have a quick question. Will, you mentioned a book called Tribes or Tribe. What was that again?
Tribes.
Okay.
Tribes by Seth Godin. There's another great one by Seth Godin he released about 3 years ago called This is Marketing. But again, that kind of builds off his tribes thing. So Seth Godin has an unbelievable podcast. I'm a big podcast listener. It's called Akimbo. some of the biggest realtors I know have actually taken a course. He has a course, I forget what it's called. It's like the online digital MBA, something or other. But I know Judy Weininger in Jersey. I know a bunch of realtors that have actually done stuff in his world. He's a tremendous trainer.
Thank you.
But his books are free at the library, folks, so you don't actually have to spend money to go read these books.
I ordered exactly what you say on Amazon. It's coming tomorrow. Good job.
You know, and ladies and gentlemen, here's the sad story about that, is that when I turned the team leader job over to George, I actually bought him one of these books to give him, and it's sitting on my desk upstairs still. So I'm going to drop this one off at Val at Blue Bell. That's what I'm going to do.
Excellent, thank
For
you.
inviting me on. Yeah. Sorry,
I'll
George.
share it.
I didn't
I'll
write a
read
note
it
into George.
immediately and share it. Yeah, terrific.
It's like a $12 or $15 book too. It's really cheap, right, George? What'd you get for
Yeah.
14, 15 bucks?
It was like 12 or 13 bucks on Amazon.
Yeah.
All right, we'll make sure we pass it to our agents. Okay, 9:38. Any more questions before we give our thanks to Will? Will, that was amazing. I love the slides. It's something that I'm so glad I recorded because I'm going to use it in my classes with my agents since there's a handful on, but many, many more to reach. And again, I knew you would deliver. You break down the numbers. You make it very simple for them to understand where their priorities should be directed.
Well,
Thank
one
you.
question I have is
Yeah.
how did you talk for 35 straight minutes and didn't stop to take a breath once?
Because you know it's a gift, George. What do you want me to tell you? It's my from North Jersey. It's you got to get a word. I got 6 brothers and sisters. How do you get a word in edgewise? You know, one of the other things, just real quick on the numbers, because I did forget to talk about that real quick, is that, you know, you got to start out small. Everybody wants to be Muriel. Everybody wants to be Jeff Silva. We all want that, right? We want to be these huge, successful mega agents. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to do it. You have to pace yourself. And if you can increase your business 20% a year, in 4 years, it'll be 100% growth, right? So that's just keep that in mind. 4 houses becomes 6 houses, becomes 8, 9, 10, and in 6 or 7 years, you're at 25 houses from just this one method. It'd be tremendous if you could just follow a system. And you all know the best book ever. Again, these are all around my office, everywhere. It's in my book bag, it's zipped, is, you know, the MREA. Follow the model. It does, there's so much to the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, for anybody that hasn't read it yet. You can get a free copy from Val or from Greg Schwartz. You can get a free copy from George Kozer if you don't have one. Get that book, read it. Mine is tattered. And it's the best book for realtors out there. Somebody else have a question?
From Camilla. Yes.
Just a quick question on the seller's database. I just want to get clarification that you're saying that it has to be people that you know.
People that
So is
know
it like-
you.
People that know me, got it. So more like, okay, so through friends or possible referrals, like of that kind of contact, yes?
Well, yeah, what I would say to you is if you wanted to meet everybody on your street, how would you go about it?
Okay, because I live in a high rise, so like I live in Jersey City, so it's kind of I'm thinking more maybe like from school or people that may know me from, you know, from kids or this kind of associations, because like if you're thinking people on this like on the
Well, I
street.
would assume, I love Jersey City, by the way. I grew up in North Jersey, Morris County, but you probably cross more paths with more people when there isn't a pandemic going on than any other person on this call. And you have to get comfortable with talking to everyone until you penetrate that tribe, until you get to meet those people. They'll open their worlds up to you, like I said earlier on, which was, you know, you got to get in their world, right? You got to let them into your world. And to get into their friends' worlds, they got to come into yours, you got to get into theirs, and then you get the referrals. Majority of my business is referrals, ladies and gentlemen. It just is. I sold a $750,000 house in Phoenixville this year because it was my first 7th level referral. So I can go all the way back to the first person. And it was because their realtor from Philadelphia did not want to drive out to show them a farmhouse in Phoenixville. They fired her. They called me on a recommendation. And I sold that woman a house right up the road that gave the recommendation right up the street from Val. She lives in Val's neighborhood.